Right, I'm here with Sanjay from Pursue Nutrition. Say hello to Sanjay. Sanjay is amazing in that he's decided to support this crazy idea of mine. We met through Instagram actually, and following each other's profiles, and then it became apparent that we both have one thing in common, specifically, which is that we both suffered from chronic fatigue, and I'm going to go into that in another video about my own experience. But Sanjay's quite an inspirational person. First of all, that backstory, getting over chronic fatigue, but also what he's doing, which is amazing with Pursue Nutrition, and I can't wait for him to talk about that. But first of all, I'd like to talk to you about your experience with chronic fatigue syndrome, because I know there's a lot of people who have it. It's a condition that isn't very well understood, and helping people, what works for someone might not work for someone else, but it's always helpful to hear positive stories about something like this, because I know, having had it for 10 years on and off, it's been really difficult at times mentally. So Sanjay, could we start? Could you explain for you what was your personal experience of chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, thanks James for inviting me to chat to you. Appreciate it. And hello everyone. So in terms of my experience in terms of how it started, mine started with multiple stressful situations occurring in my life at the same time. And when I look back, I didn't handle them very well. So in terms of certain situations at work, at home, I think I held on to those experiences and those issues and challenges. I tried to resolve everything myself, and then therefore started to not focus on nutrition, not focus on exercise, not focus on all the things that I should have been doing. I just focused on working harder.
Yeah, not recovering and resting enough, and
exactly.
Stress is a huge contributor to something like chronic fatigue. There's lots of other aspects to it, and that's a whole nother video in itself. But for you, what were the symptoms?
So the main symptoms with me initially were it was actually a virus that I caught initially. So that then
it can often be a trigger to like a long afterwards a long period of fatigue, can't it?
Yeah, exactly. So what I've learned since then is normally when the body is overworked and under rested, then your immune system is more susceptible to catch viruses, bugs, etc. So
it's run down.
Exactly. So exactly.
Yeah,
so I was catching everything, and then not being able to recover very quickly from anything that I caught, and then it just kept continuously running myself down. And the worst than one I had was it was a few months for me to recover. It then turned into post-viral fatigue, and then the next diagnosis is after it's 6 months, it becomes chronic fatigue syndrome. So in terms of my symptoms, I had fatigue. That was a real big one.
Was that like physical in the muscles, or was it more just a general feeling empty, no energy, or? Yeah,
the latter. I think it was. Okay. So it's a level of fatigue that I had never experienced before. So it's not the kind of fatigue that you have after a workout, after a run or a bike ride, and you rest for a bit and then you recover. This was a real deep fatigue where I just didn't have the energy to even get off the sofa or get out of bed and then go across the road or walk down the street. It was that bad, and when I tried to do that, I felt I was pushing myself. So I had 3 months where I was basically bedbound because I just didn't have that energy to walk across the room.
Actually bedbound
3 months. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, I never had it that bad.
Weirdly enough, that wasn't the worst of the symptoms. It was I had symptoms that were related to, and I guess, nervous system symptoms, which are really horrible migraines that I'd get, and sore throats, stomach, so a lot of nausea in my stomach. So I had previously been diagnosed with IBS, and I was getting better and recovering from that. But then when chronic fatigue hit again, or when it hit, then my stomach just didn't have the ability to digest anything. So it was constant nausea, and I had to be really careful about what I ate to make sure that I wasn't upsetting my stomach. So yeah, lots of horrible symptoms.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot that your gut health and your gut microbiome is really important for immune system and all sorts of things. So it's not surprising that the stomach might have been related to it in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how long would you say it affected you for in total?
So
big part of
it was probably a good year and a half, I'd say. So I had probably about a year off work while I was recovering and trying to find
a year off work.
Yeah, I was trying to find different avenues for recovery, really. So trying everything out there, from acupuncture to sort of herbal pills, different types of treatment, or alternative treatment. Nothing, well, apart from there was some there was a vitamin B injections because they thought it was a lack of vitamins, or they've done some tests where they showed vitamins were lacking, but there were really treatments that were from the outside as opposed to from within, if that makes sense. So yeah, nothing worked. So yeah, quite a while actually. So but there was a linear gradual improvement once I found things that started to
So could you for the viewer and anyone who might be suffering with something similar, what would you say were the things that really brought you out of that abyss of fatigue?
So for me, I think I found that there were two aspects. One was nutrition, and so I cut out all processed food from my diet. I went mainly plant-based. I found that I didn't have the ability. I mean, I've never really been a big meat eater anyway, but I didn't have the ability really. It felt like more work for my digestion and to digest sort of chicken or fish. So I really went plant-based. That was one aspect. I was also more conscious about the way the food was cooked. So probably looking more at steaming food to retain the nutrients and minerals.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Rather than to sort of stop using the microwave. I wouldn't boil so much. So yeah, just trying different things and trying different meals, and then also some supplements, but natural supplements as well. But the biggest thing for me was around mindset, really, and learning techniques that were based on NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming, which is effectively and it's very similar to CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, and it's how you interpret situations and react to situations in your life and how you view your life effectively. So really taught me the power of the mind, effectively, the power of belief.
Positive mindset, mentality in general can have a huge effect, can't it?
Exactly.
We know that the placebo effect can work and actually change your body actually physically. Then it's so powerful, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's amazing once you at first when someone tells you that, when you've been suffering for a while, it's very hard to believe that just changing thoughts will affect you physically. And for me, I had to experience it, and I started putting the techniques in practice. And when I started putting the techniques in practice, and I started to see results, but minimal results. They could have been just a slight change in the way that I might have had a bit more energy that particular day because I changed the thought, or a headache that didn't last very long, or no headache. And then I think, wow, what did I do that was different? I did the NLP, I did the techniques that I'd learned around the mind, and like you said, focusing on changing my emotions and thoughts. And I would see a direct change in how I felt and my health, and I thought, wow, this works.
Were you recording it in a journal to be sure what was actually happening, and not sort of having to think back a few days and think, what was did I change? It was you wrote a journal.
Exactly. So it was daily. I had a symptom. It was almost symptoms. So I was working with someone for the treatment for the NLP, and I would show that to her, and she'd say for my own benefit, and then also for her, so she could see how my progress was coming along. But that was really useful. That's a good point, because that was really useful because I could look back, and it wasn't always week by week. Sometimes it wasn't linear. So some weeks would be good, some weeks not so good. But when I would look back, I could see, wow, I've had a much better week this week.
Yeah, and sometimes you forget, how far you've come. You might start, be feeling better but not 100%, and you forget, you sort of, that becomes the normal now, and you forget that you've actually improved a lot.
Yeah.
So that's often something that need to be aware of. But so would you say that now you're fully recovered? I don't like to use that term for chronic fatigue, because I know that it's if you revert to those old lifestyle ways or habits, that it could, well, at least I know for me, it could probably return again. So I don't know.
Exactly that. So I think, yeah, I'm fully recovered. So absolutely, in the way that I feel healthier than I was before. But then I think what I've learned from it is huge wealth of knowledge and information that I didn't have before. So, and I think it's a bit cliche to say. I think people say when they've had an illness or something that it's the best thing that ever happened to me. But it really is the best thing that ever happened to me, because in terms of what I've learned from it. I've learned now techniques that will help for the rest of my life, as opposed to just recovering from the illness. And like you said, it's a way of life, it's how you live. And yeah, if I went back to my way of being before, which was probably not so present and probably more about stressing and thinking about the worst case scenarios, etc., then yeah, you're absolutely right. Then I will start to, naturally, my body will start to burn itself out again. Yeah. I think it's almost a mechanism for the body to say slow down.
It's telling you that the way you're living at the moment is just unsustainable.
Exactly.
And it either needs to rest or just actual changes in your lifestyle to be able to recover.
Exactly.
I'm sure you'd be happy to speak to anybody if they were to get in contact.
Absolutely,
about it. And I will, obviously, at the end of the video, I'll put all the details where you can get hold of Sanjay. But what I'd like to do now is talk about Pursue, because Sanjay is the one and only member, I believe, the founder, the creator of Pursue Nutrition. It's a fantastic product, but I'll let Sanjay explain what the product is, if you would.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the product is essentially, they are sports nutrition bars at the moment. So that's my first products, and they're 100% natural. They're made from effectively dried nuts, dried fruit, seeds, elements of I use cacao in superfoods such as just beetroot powder and cherries, and really the ingredients are really focused around benefits that active people will get from them. So these ingredients have been shown to prove that there are some benefits from them. Most importantly, they are cold pressed, so there's no additives, there's no preservatives added. Being cold pressed as well, we're not adding any heat treatment to the nutrients in there as well, so it's all kept raw. And then also another big passion of mine is the environment. So I'm really keen on keeping our beautiful planet the way it is. So for me, I wouldn't have launched this product if I couldn't have found a solution that was non-plastic. So
it's entirely plastic free.
It's entirely plastic free.
That
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's so it's home compostable, and it's essentially made.
Individual wrappers are compostable, and compostable specifically not biodegradable because. Why compostable?
Biodegradable. Difference biodegradable and compostable is biodegradable doesn't have a time limit on it. So, for example, a plank of wood is biodegradable, but it could take years and years to biodegrade. And also, there are other products that are classed as biodegradable, but they're not necessarily adding any value, or they could actually damage the soil because they could have toxins in them as well.
So there's toxin-free packaging that is compostable within.
So the standard that it's been certified to is 9 weeks. 9 weeks in a industrial composter, but in a home composter 26 weeks. Although we've tested it recently and it was 10 weeks. So
10 weeks packaging that's compostable, non-toxic inks or any ingredients in the packaging, which is fantastic because am I right? There is no other energy bar out there at the moment that can boast that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of either. Which is fantastic. And the other thing is you donate to Recycle, the charity, with every bar. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So Recycle send unused bikes back from the UK to Africa and they help improve their lives. So for us, the bikes are great for transport, and for a sport, for them, it's their life.
It can change their lives. Kids getting to school, they don't have to walk an hour or two every day each way. They have more time to study. They have more time to play with with their friends, and adults as well can get to work, which is can change your family because they can now get an income or a better income. So I love that charity as well, and that's great, absolutely fantastic that you are donating with each bar, which is, I love it. So I'd like to know, because Sanjay was working in the bank?
Yeah.
Had a well-paid job, let's say, and Sanjay has left that well-paid job to start this company, and I'd love to know what the inspiration was to take such a big step, a leap of faith, if you like, to start Pursue.
So I guess in terms of my previous career, I'd worked in different organisations, but doing the same thing, which is project management, and I'd learnt a lot, which was great. The inspiration for Pursue came essentially from my illness, in terms of realising how important good food was. And then I really got into cycling and spent a lot of time on the bike, and then realised that there were no really good natural products out there. And so I had this vision for creating Pursue probably some time ago, actually. So yes, 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah. And being in a corporate environment, I think for me, it didn't feel like I was doing anything that was impacting or
having
helping
a positive
people.
Impact on the world. Really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's only so long you can. I think you can go against, I think, what you really want to do and what your heart tells you to do. And I did that for a while, and found that the income was great, but I think there comes a point where and the income's great to start now, being able to start this project with that, which has been great. But I think there comes a point where purpose that's providing some value to other people for me became a lot more important. And like you said, it's a massive risk, because you're leaving something solid and secure behind. However, I feel that and so far getting positive feedback from the bars, which is great, and it's adding value to people. I love it when people sending good reviews about them, and going on big rides and using them, and then also every bar, like you said, that gets sold, I'm thinking, right, there's more money for recycle now. Yeah, which is it's a great feeling that that every time it's sold, that it's helping someone across the world to, like you said, get an education, parents get to work, and so that made it an easier decision.
So obviously there's so much motivation, because there's so much good that can be done from it, and I can completely understand that you'd want to, and I think a lot of people might have similar ideas maybe, and find it difficult to make that step to actually go for it. I mean, how do you start with something like this? So tell us about how were the first iterations? Was it just you making bars in your kitchen and seeing what you come up with? And we've got Sanjay's got a banana and cacao flavour, a sour cherry flavour, and a beetroot flavour. So even then, like the flavours are a little bit obscure, maybe even not what you'd expect from this sort of product. So how did you get started, and how was the process?
So I guess, like you said, it was in my kitchen. So really, so it was with a small blender. Wasn't a very good blender, very cheap blender. Yeah. And I found that the blender wasn't actually good enough to blend the dates properly. So okay. So I struggled a bit with that, and I did eventually invest in a better blender, but it was enough to start. And really, I started with, I guess my tastes are going to be different to everyone else's. So I was conscious that I need to get them out there, and there was always a little bit of a hesitation around that, to be honest, because it's putting yourself out there as well. So it was that I went through a little period of okay, I need to now get people, and friends are okay, but then when it's going wider than your
Yeah,
friends,
you're always I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of a bias when you're asking your friend or family member's opinion.
Yeah.
It's when you confront strangers and that's when you really get the honest feedback.
That's it, yeah.
Right.
And I think that honest feedback's really good, but I think at the same time there was part of me that didn't want to hear that, and that's probably the ego part, because it was then saying, oh no, this might not be good enough, or you might not be able to do this, and I might have to try again and get back in the kitchen and keep working. So I went through, like you said, multiple iterations. I'm lucky enough to belong to a great cycling club that some great members in there who were happy to be my experimenters every weekend. Exactly. So every weekend I'd go along with some small chopped up bits of flavours, and I'd iterate every weekend and they'd try them out, and it was great. Some great guys would give me some feedback. Everyone's got different tastes, but I'd take all the feedback and then vary the ingredients slightly. And then got to a point where I could then make in a slightly bigger batch. And then it comes to there's lots of complexities around it, because then you start getting into the nutrition. So you've got to make sure you're balancing the macronutrients, you're balancing the cost of production, so each ingredient. And
it's not just about the taste. There's a whole load of things you've got to take into account.
And the moisture as well. Exactly. Because so being a sports product,
how did you address that?
So I went with. So, for example, with the dates, I had a choice of organic or conventional dates. I tested both of the organic and conventional ones, and the organic ones were actually more moist than the conventional ones. So I made a lot of the judgments, based on the ingredients that were better for the bars. Yeah. There's also a tolerance that we can put some liquid in there as well, to a certain amount. So I increased that to the limit. I guess one of the it was learning all the way through, making loads of mistakes. So it was by no way a smooth process at all. One of the mistakes I made was I made the bars in my kitchen. The next step of the process is the manufacturer made the bars in their kitchen, and then they replicate what I've made. And what they did on this occasion was so they took my recipes, which is absolutely fine, and then they used their ingredients and sent the bars back to me, and every single bar tasted completely different, not in a good way, to my bars.
To yours?
Yeah.
Right. So what had they done?
So what I realised was, with a dried fruit, you have many varieties of fruit, dried fruit or whatever, and different flavours and different tastes and different moisture levels, and they used what they had in their stock, and what their suppliers were. I was searching. I didn't have restrictions on who I use. I would search on the internet and find the best suppliers for me. So the taste and flavours were not the same. So I had to go back in my kitchen. This is what I should have done in the first place, was use their ingredients, but then also challenge them a bit on their ingredients. And then I had to get them to order ingredients they didn't have, or with different suppliers, etc. as well, to get the ingredients that were best for the bars that I made. So that lost a few months on that, but
wow.
Got
so when would you say, how long has this process been going so far? Bear in mind that the product launched in March this year.
So
how long did it take?
It's been 2 years now.
Wow.
Just over 2
Okay.
years. Yeah. From start. Yeah.
Wow.
On time. Yeah.
Amazing. What would you say has been the hardest part of the process?
Hardest part of the process.
The most difficult thing, either.
I think I think there comes challenges along the way where it's a decision between, many times it's a decision between cost, product, so best quality product, or cost, materials, ingredients, etc. And it's and then obviously it needs to make a profit, but I want to make the best product. And it was just juggling act between these various parameters that you have for the product. And what I did when I realised that I was currently these battles kind of quite often, was go back to my core values, and the core values of the of the
Stay
brand.
true to your values. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And for
Don't
Pursue,
change. Yeah.
for Pursue, it was really about the best quality ingredients possible. So that's number one, and that was easy then. So if I'd have a choice between, it's a few pence or a little bit more expensive for this, like the dates is a good example because.
Yep.
The dates,
Organic
the
is always much.
exactly.
How much more? Like
it was
roughly?
it was a small percentage, but it adds up when you're when you're using it over a number of a volume. It adds up. So maybe 10%, I think. I can't remember exactly, but so I chose quality over the price on that particular issue. Again, the other one was about so the other value is sustainability. So again, the price is for the non-plastic solution is 50% more. So I paid twice as much.
That's quite a lot. Wow.
Yeah. So.
But it's
exactly,
worth
so
it. I mean, that sets it apart from everyone else, and that's really aligning with your mission,
exactly.
if you like.
Yeah,
so,
exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible. It's fantastic what Sanjay's done so far, and he's only really just started. If you consider that the product only launched back in March. So. Last question for you, and it's not related to Pursue specifically, but I'd love to know who has been your biggest inspiration. Whether you've used that inspiration in general in life or specifically more towards starting Pursue. Who do you think has been, has helped you out the most?
So I think there's lots of people that spring to mind. I think if I had to pick one person, who, and I guess I'm thinking a lot in terms of Pursue as well, how it's helped me out with Pursue, that would be Tom Bilyeu.
Maybe say that again for the fact that there was that motorbike going past.
So Tom Bilyeu would be the man that comes to mind. So Tom hosts a show on YouTube called Impact Theory, and Tom interviews really inspirational people, entrepreneurs, musicians, artists, ex-Marines, exactly, actors and
Navy SEALs,
and they all share one thing in common, and that's their mindset, and that's their mindset, and then also they all have a common thread in terms of what they do, and that's their purpose, and their purpose isn't just about themselves.
It's about helping other people.
Exactly. And Tom and his story is inspirational himself, so it's great what he's doing, and it's really helped me. So I work a lot on my own at the moment, and it feels like I have Tom as one of my virtual mentors online. So every Tuesday when his show's on, it's great to watch. So it's worth diving into and checking out if your viewers haven't seen it before.
It's on YouTube. I'll put some details down under this video or on the screen now. Sanjay, thanks very much for taking the time out to do this interview. I wish you all the best with Pursue, and it really is a fantastic product, and I'm absolutely honoured that you've decided to help support this my project, if you like. So I can see, I hope Pursue grows, takes over the bar, the sports nutrition bar world.
I'm
great.
I'm glad to have your support.
Where can people find Pursue?
So online, so I'm selling mainly online, and the website is pursue.co.uk. So quite simple, and it's Pursue spelled P-U-R-S-U.
And social media?
And social media is at Pursue Nutrition, and that's on Instagram and on Facebook as well.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you.